Decision 2016 coverage now. New Marquette Law School poll shows the presidential race pretty much dead even in Wisconsin. Hillary Clinton leads Donald Trump 44% to 42% among likely voters, meaning people who say they will vote. That's well within the margin of error. Among registered voters, Clinton's lead is 5 points, from 43 to 38. So let's talk about it. Joining us now to talk about all of this is our top-notch political panel. We have GOP strategist and Governor Walker advisor Stephen Thompson and former presidential communications director for President Obama and director, I should say, Democratic strategist Joe Zepecki. So question one, guys, let's look at the numbers this time around. Why is this race still so close? Neither Clinton nor Trump can break above 50%. Joe?
Well, if you look at all of the polling this year, the only candidate at the presidential level in Wisconsin who has ever cleared 50% is Secretary Clinton. Donald Trump hasn't been able to get above 41, 42%. He appears to be stuck there. And I think as he continues to make these wild comments and not really be very disciplined on the stump, it's going to be hard for him to grow that number.
Stephen?
Yeah, what you're seeing in Wisconsin today is what we see across the country over the course of the last month. Hillary Clinton's convention bounce is a thing of the past. This race is stuck in neutral with both candidates tied in practically every swing state around the country. What we saw today was a lot of voters in both parties and in the middle aren't happy with their choices, and they aren't really willing to get off the fence at this point.
Yeah, so let's compare this election with the last one, 2016 versus 2012. Clinton versus Trump, as we said right now, 44 to 22%. But 4 years ago, Obama, Biden, Romney, Ryan, 54 to 40%, a 14% gap there. So why is that? That's a big difference from 4 years ago.
Well, I think some of that has to do with the timing of the conventions. If you look back earlier in the summer, right after the Democratic convention, you had a larger lead for Clinton here. 4 years ago, the Democratic convention was much later. I think that once we get into the debates, you'll see a lot of the voters who favor Clinton but aren't quite yet ready to commit to her are going to squarely land in her camp.
But, Stephen, what I'm sort of getting at, too, as well, 4 years ago, it seemed like a big gap there, but we saw more of the candidates. We saw more of them on TV. This time, it seems to be a much closer race, and they're barely around.
Mm-hmm. Well, both of these candidates came into this race incredibly polarizing. They're still polarizing today. They're both having issues getting people to jump off the fence. You've got 12% of voters that aren't willing to vote for anybody at this point. When we try to apply historical precedent to this race and think about having the debates, are they going to have an impact or not, I'm not so certain, because every time we try to apply conventional wisdom to this race, we get proved wrong.
So let me talk about that here. You just brought up the 12% number. 12% of registered voters don't have a presidential preference right now. And then when you look at 68% of Republicans or independents who lean Republican, they wish the party had nominated someone else other than Trump. And 48% of Democrats and independents who lean Democratic prefer Bernie Sanders. So give me a sense here. Both of you guys have prepped candidates for a debate. What do these candidates need to do next Monday night to sort of bring in folks who are still on the fence?
I think that Donald Trump needs to go out there and prove that he has a solid base of knowledge on the issues and come across presidential. People know him as a TV personality. He can't look like a TV personality. He needs to look like the President of the United States.
Joe?
You know, the reality is that these are the two choices, and I think what people are going to see on that stage is two very different candidates and a very clear choice between Secretary Clinton, who has the qualifications to do the job, and Mr. Trump, who doesn't have that knowledge and worldview and ability or temperament to be commander-in-chief.
All right, guys, thanks. We'll have much more on this next week after the debate.